Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Roaming Homer podcast. My name is Caleb, that's Francisco, and we are excited for you to join us on episode 6 of the podcast. So, listen, we've got an exciting one today. I have a good friend of mine and Francisco's on the show. Jamil is going to be joining us. We are going to talk D1 college football. We're going to be talking a little bit of high school coaching football. We're going to give him an opportunity to talk a little bit about the QBs in the draft. And as always, we're going to finish with the Roaming Homer, I'm a Homer section, and we're going to talk a little bit about all of our teams. So, without further ado, let's roll the intro. Francisco, what's going on, man? It has been another week and in the NFL, and we are getting closer to the draft. What's going on, my friend?
Man, I'm just excited about the draft. I'm excited about Jamil coming on. We have a true blue college athlete from North Carolina that played at Wake Forest, if I'm correct.
That is
Demon
correct.
Deacon. So it's exciting. I'm excited to hear what he has to say about his experience of going to college, if he wanted to go pro or not, just to see what he's been through and how the process works.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, Jamil, welcome to the show. You are officially a roaming homer. I appreciate you joining us tonight. So, just a quick introduction of my boy Jamil. He is a former defensive end with the Wake Forest Demons. He played in 02 to 07, 5-year D1 college athlete. He's going to give us a little bit of insight on his life and stuff. So, welcome to the show, Jamil.
Appreciate it, guys. Appreciate you guys inviting me in. Excited to be on camera with these two guys, some of the best guys in the business. Glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, man. So we won't hold it against you with the poster behind you, but
Hey, man, we all right.
everybody on the show knows my feelings about that team right there. But hey, we're gonna get through it. It might pain me a little bit, but we're gonna get through this show. So let's not talk about them. Let's not talk about that team.
Just
Let's
make
talk
you
a little.
better. Look at where you are now.
Come on, man. Come on, man. They
Take your
still
lumps.
they still in my nightmares. They
I'm the
still
only
in my
one.
nightmares.
I'm the only one on this panel got a reason to smile.
Hey,
That's true.
we know. Hey, man,
That's
we
true.
gave you two. We gave you two. We winning
Yeah.
so much, we figured we could give some away.
Right.
Yeah. I still have the Miami Miracle, so we're good. So, but anyway, so let's get down to it, man. I want to take some time and talk to you a little bit about your experience. I want you to share with some of the listeners in regards to being a D1 athlete. What was that like and all of that? So, talk to us a little bit about your transition from high school. Did you play all 4 years of high school ball and then your transition to the D1? What was that experience like? Walk us through recruitment and then your experience of getting recruited to Wake Forest and all of that process.
So in high school, I went to high school here in North Carolina, small school, Charles D. Owen High School out of Black Mountain, North Carolina. And I played all 4 years. My coach, my freshman year, I played one play on JV football, and it was a practice. I went into practice. I butted up with one of my fellow teammates the first play, and he said, "Hey, that was your last play on JV. Welcome to varsity." And at the time, we had the number one offensive line in the state. And my coach Mont, my D-line / O-line coach, he was like, "Hey, you got to split a double team with two of my best offensive linemen." So I got a offensive guard in the center. He was like, "Split the double team." So Will Fisher and Jeremy Kitchen introduced me to the ground and a lot of dirt. They flipped me upside down, put me in the ground, and then stumped on me and said, "Welcome to varsity." So that was my welcome to varsity. And since then, I fell in love with the game. I took my lumps up, down, right, left, whatever it may be. And I had parents who were on me as far as academics were concerned. So they stayed in front of me, making sure that I made the grade. So that made the whole recruiting process actually easier for me because I could go academics, or I could go athletics, or I could go both. And so I got recruited for academics, I got recruited for athletics, and I got recruited for both. I pretty much went
Nice.
up and down the East Coast. I had $4.2 million in offers across various schools because I could go either way. I had schools all the way down to Miami that I could have just went academics, and I had schools as far north, going to Notre Dame. So I could pretty much choose. I was somewhat of a homebody. I stayed close. When I narrowed it down, I was pretty much schools in state, and then I had South Carolina when Lou Holtz was there.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
was actually going to commit to South Carolina. I was 2 minutes. The defensive lineman committed before me. And so I ended up going to Wake. And I fell in love with Wake, actually. But my mom was a Lou Holtz fan. And so she was like, you need to go to South Carolina. She got my dad on me. She's like, your son needs to go to South Carolina. I'm like, come on, Ma. I like Wake. And so Wake was just, when I went there, student teacher ratio at the time was 9-1. So you walk in, you knew your teachers, they knew you. It made studying easier. We had Maya Angelou there while I was there. Unfortunately, I didn't get to attend a class because I went the business route with my major. Majored in business, minored in social and psychology. I was working on both of those, all three of those degrees at the same time. And then football, of course. So transitioning from high school to college, one of the tour guides when I got to Wake said he drew a pie chart, took out a piece that was probably no bigger than this. And he was like, that's your social life. The rest is school and football. And I was like, that's it. That's it. I had to try it. I had to make sure he was telling the truth. So when I first got to school, believe it or not, the first half of my first semester, I got my midterms. And Bonnie Ray, I'll never forget, called me into the office because she was like the team mom. She was the secretary to our coach, Jim Grove, at the time. And she was like, Jamil, what is going on? I'm like, what are you talking about? She was like, you have straight Fs. So that whole party scene got me. The whole party scene got me.
They call it the freshman 40, but Jamil gave it a new name. It was the freshman Fs. So I mean, the freshman failing.
I never saw that side. So I got through. So obviously I had to change some things about what I was doing. I ended up bringing them all up, made straight A's though. But I had to see what was going on. Yeah. I ended up being Mr. Wake Forest too. I hold the title. My sophomore year, because there was no party, no event that I wasn't involved in as a football player, and I had to balance that with studying, with being a football player, all of it all at one time. So needless to say, that's the biggest transition, and is going from somewhat your parents' tutelage and guidance into college, where you have to keep up with all of that. And even from an athletic stance, I used to train at night, late at night. I would be running hundreds on my street just to get prepared for college. And then when you get into college, you got the training facility, you got the trainers, you got the nutritionists, you got all of these resources available to you. It's just a matter of fitting it into your schedule, because literally you're working school-wise from the beginning of the day to probably like 3 or 4, and then you got practice from like 4 to 9, and then you do that 5-6 days a week. And so it's literally a job. Like we're working 80 hours a day. You got 40 hours for school, you got 40 hours for football, and you just have to balance that out. And the one thing that they tell you when you get there that some athletes may know, may not know, is your scholarship is renewed annually. So you're not guaranteed the 4 years. You're only guaranteed that first year that you're there.
Right.
And so the coach can come in next day or the next year and say, your services are no longer needed.
Yeah.
And so, and at the time, you got to understand that when I was in school, we couldn't work. And you couldn't have a job, because you had some schools that college athletes were working 1 hour and making $1,000. That school remained unnamed, but we knew about it. And it was just stuff like going on like that across the nation. And so it made it hard for athletes to work. Yeah. So we were working on like our athletic abilities, trying to make the league, doing everything we could, training. I mean, literally you had to train all the time. Like when you were at practice, and we tell high school athletes the same thing. Practice is just basically basically just putting in game stuff, learning stuff that you might not have known. All of the real work happens outside of practice, your film
Right.
study, your
Right.
conditioning yourself, you're working out yourself, all the work that you're doing leading up to a game, all of that stuff that you don't put time to, that's all stuff that you're investing into the sport so that you fully understand where a person's supposed to be,
Yeah.
how a play is supposed to be ran, all of this specifics. So
And
it's
those
just,
are things that
yeah,
you don't do in high school,
no,
right? So,
no.
Francisco, did you play high school ball?
No, my mom wouldn't
Okay.
let me play. My mom wouldn't let me play football when I was in high school. I
Yeah.
was able to play baseball, but she never allowed me to play football. That was one sport she didn't want me or any of my brothers to do.
Yeah. So I mean, like in high school football, you have some of the kids that, depending on the upbringing and stuff like that, that have all the facilities that you can go to and extra trainers and stuff like this. And then you have some kids that don't, that just have the natural talent, that are built different and are able to do that. But in high school ball, it's not that time. You don't. Some of these high school football players, I know both of my son played high school football. You had the opportunity to coach one of them in
Mm-hmm.
in in high school, and it's different. They work jobs, they do school. School's different today than it was when we were growing up in regards to how that was.
Mm-hmm.
But so if you could say what is one of the hardest things that you had to do or understand, real quick, as far as like being a D1 athlete, what was one of the hardest things?
That is a business. Like you got to understand the business aspect of this. And it's even more so today with the NIL deals that you have going on, and they even talking about putting it in high school. So at the end of the day, you got to understand the business aspect of this. When you're in high school, at least when we were in school, it was more so for the love of the game. You paid for the love of the game, the camaraderie with the teammates and everybody around you, the community, all of that stuff. But then when you get to college and then when you go to pro, it's the business aspect because you got to market yourself. You gotta invest in yourself. You got to do all these things to make yourself worth something. So we're talking about establishing value. So as a coach, that's what I'm trying to instill into my players is, hey, understand that the game has changed. Everything that you do impacts your bottom line, good, bad, or indifferent. If you go out there and you decide to party and do all this stuff that impacts your grades, you're impacting your bottom line at the end of the day. So if you get an NIL deal, we was talking as coaches today. One of my coach's former players was at another D1 school and got a offer of $100,000 starting in NIL just to come over to a different school. And so at the end of the day, you got to understand the business aspect. So when you go into school in a college, it's a business. The school is out there trying to promote their brand. They're not just going to give you a degree. The football team is out there putting out their brand because they're trying to sell merchandise. They're trying to sell tickets. They're trying to sell bowl games. They're trying to sell all this stuff. And the player today, you can make money. So you're out there trying to sell yourself at the same time. So the biggest thing as athletes you got to understand is the business aspect. Every decision that you make has consequences and has money behind it. So you can either be making money or losing money depending on the decisions that you make.
That's
So
true.
let me ask you questions, man. How do you feel about the NIL? Because to me personally, I think it was one of the best things that happened in college football because these colleges have been making billions off these athletes. And
Correct.
everybody, all they say, oh, well, they get a scholarship and they get to go. That's hogwash. They've been
Correct.
making billions of dollars off these kids. These kids haven't seen a dime. Now, that's one of the reasons I think Saban retired because now he knows he can't keep up anymore. He can't get that number one class anymore. And if they're not happy, the kids are going to leave because they're going to go where the money is.
Correct. And I think the other aspect of the NIL that people forget is it starts to give some of the kids that wanted to jump into the pros a different option. Like you have athletes out there that are being offered multi-million-dollar deals just to stay in college. So gone are the days that you got to stay injury-free in college in order to make money to support your family and the people that you said you were going to support if you made it. Now, all you have to do is really just make it to college and you can make money. And so some of these kids are coming out multi-millionaires. If they get the right investment strategy, now it gives them some abilities to do what they want instead of being put into various positions that they may or may not want. Because let's be honest, probably 80%, I wouldn't even say that much, probably 70% of your athletes probably have degrees that really don't transfer into things that they really want to do at the end of the day. And so they're stuck with doing what society wants them to do. With having millions in the bank now, you can really choose what you want to do. Like you could decide, hey, you know what? I'm gonna start my own business. You have money to start that up. You want to buy a house, you have money for that. You want to buy a car, you have money for that. If you want to plan your family, all of that stuff, you can do that. So it gives you options. Whereas in the past, you get hurt. Now you're trying to fall back on a degree if you finish college. That's why Michael Jordan went back and got his college degree. And a lot of different athletes that are older, they went back and got those degrees so that they can manage the money that they made. But unfortunately, I don't think that professional sports are investing in that education to make sure all these athletes are not going broke. The list just continues to grow of bankrupt athletes.
Yeah.
Why? Because they just don't have that background.
Here's my thought too. So I'm not against the NIL. What I'm against is giving a 19-year-old this money that 90% of 19-year-olds do not know how to handle.
But they've been doing it in other sports, haven't they?
Not NIL. No,
yeah, not NIL. But you think LeBron James went into the
but
NBA?
He went pro.
What?
He went pro he did not go to college. So you have your few, but I'm going to say 90% of these kids have never been taught how to handle more than $10,000 if they were handling $10,000. So you give a kid a multi-million-dollar NIL deal, don't know how to get an agent, get the wrong one and they go bankrupt. They don't know how to deal with that kind of money, and they're already spending it on Bugattis and everything else, and they have no idea what they're doing. So I'm not against the NIL, and I do believe that, like what you said, Francisco, these colleges, this is why NCAA the football game was canceled, is because they're making buku money off of the likeness and they're coming back, but now they're only paying them like $600 and a free copy of the game. Wow. Thank you very much for that. That's you might as well slap me in the face for that. But at the end of the day, I think NIL deals should be limited to junior, senior, not freshman, sophomore. Because
but are we just talking football? I feel like we're talking football because other sports can go out, well, at least in the past, they were able to leave early. Like basketball, until recently, used to be able to leave early, and these kids were making.
I believe right now you have to go 1 year, if I'm correct, to enter the NBA draft and have to be a certain age to enter. That's why Bronny did not go straight to the league.
Yeah, but they don't have to go to the NBA draft. They can go overseas. They can play in the G League.
They can go overseas,
and they're still going to make millions.
Yeah, they still have to do that. Again, you're going to have a few percentages that know how to handle it, right? Sean Kemp went straight from there. I think
Garnett.
Was it Kevin Garnett did it? Did Kobe do it?
Yes.
Kobe did it, and LeBron. We can count on one hand most of the people that did not go to college. Now, all of those are exceptional. Besides Sean Kemp, I don't think Sean Kemp's a Hall of Famer, and not to get into the NBA, but the rest of them are all the way either Hall of Famers or first ballot Hall of Famers, no question. That is the 1%. That is the 1% of the population. Look how many people get in there, but it's so hard to get into the NFL, which is it's a 10% that make it into college, and it's 10% of that 10% that make it into the NFL. It is very hard to go there, right? So real quick, you had aspirations, didn't you, Jamil, to go to the NFL? Is that what you wanted to do?
I did initially.
What stopped that?
I tore my ACL, my meniscus, and did a patella reconstruction.
Okay, so we've got that, which is why NILs are good. But what happens? You're an aspiring freshman. You come from high school football that plays in a decent division in high school. I'm not talking about the Texas or the Floridas or the Californias. I'm talking about some of these rural. You came up in a Carolina school, probably not the level of an IMG type of school or some of these others, but still probably good within the state of North Carolina, maybe even South Carolina, or even on the East Coast. But at the same time, you're an aspiring freshman. You've got to figure out, can you even make it in the big leagues? And going from high school to college and D1, they're bigger, faster, stronger. You're putting on weight. I know from jump, most of these kids are going in there and they're probably putting on 10 to 25 pounds of muscle, and they're in the gym constantly. And I think that's important. But you're going to give an NIL deal to an aspiring freshman? I don't agree with that.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you why. Absolutely.
I would.
You know why?
Too.
You know why? I give you the exact reason why. Because most of these kids that come from areas that they're from the hood. Most kids who aspire to go to the NFL, NBA, they're from the hood. I grew up in the hood. I know this firsthand. They end up being the breadwinner of the family. So if he knows he's not going to the NFL, let's just say he has in his mind he wants to, but in the back of his mind he knows, I'm not going to the NFL, but I can be a star in college, because you have plenty of stars in college that didn't transition to the NFL. If they can start making money as a freshman and set themselves up to have money after college, make sure that their family's taken care of, make sure they have a house, make sure that money's sitting in the bank, why not? Because they may not be able to transition out to the NFL. They're going to have to use that degree or whatever degree they have to try to go on to the real world. But if you have $1 million sitting in your bank account stacked up, it's going to give you a head start where most kids don't have that head start at 18, 19 years old.
Here's my rebuttal to that. I agree with your thoughts. The thought pattern, I'm 100% on track with you all, right? Some of these kids come from rough neighborhoods. They come from one-parent families. They come from things that on their own, they're not going to make it. They're getting to college because of their athletic ability, maybe not their academic ability, right? We don't have a ton of what Jamil was saying. I could go for either way and get all of this money going academics and not. And let's be realistic, Jamil, you can tell me this. I was never a D1 athlete, but most of these kids cannot go with these neuroscience engineering majors and keep up with the workload of a high-end major of college and keep up with the scholarship for D1 star athlete football without driving themselves into the ground. It's hard. Doable, yes. Hard. Very, very hard to do. So therefore, if you're going to give an aspiring star coming from anywhere, privileged, not privileged, because this is not about where do you come from. This is about your athletic ability and also partly your academic ability. So I'm not segregating who's coming from where, but if you're giving a 19-year-old kid, I think about my 19-year-old kids. If I'm giving my 19-year-old kid $1 million to go play sports, I hope that I have helped them as a parent, but I also hope that the school is teaching them how to handle those finances. And they're not going out there that have never seen more than 10 or 15 grand probably in their entire life. And they don't know what to do with it. You got these kids leaving college, getting these multi-million-dollar contracts back in the day and broke first year, second year of the NFL. Broke. I mean, what's your thoughts?
Well, the only thing that I was going to say as a different perspective on this is, with having an NIL, it gives them the opportunity to make a mistake. Because you got to think, these are multi-year deals, or they can grow every year as the athlete is in college. So let's say they make the mistake that first year and they go broke. At least they can see that plan didn't work out for them. They bought a car.
Who's there? My thing is, who's there teaching them?
Well,
because they ain't with mom and dad.
Correct. And that's the thing. And that's what I was talking about at the beginning when I was saying, when you're transitioning from mom to yourself, there's a learning curve. Like, you got to learn how to survive in this society.
$1 million learning curve. That's my problem.
Correct. And that's fine. But on the flip side, they have the opportunity. When do they, let me put it this way. Let me back up. When do they have time to spend that money? Because at the end of the day, remember, my schedule was, I'm working from literally 6 in the morning to 9 at night in season. And season
Brother,
goes pretty much.
give me 10 minutes and I can spend $1 million
You can, but
online.
and I get that. But the flip side of that is what you're looking at it from perspective of your kids in this environment that they're in. You got to understand, when they are on a college campus, there's a lot of things that are out of their control. Because at the end of the day, they have to play the sport to make some of these deals, which means that they have to be at these practices, which means that they have to be in class, which means that a lot of that time that you're saying that they're going to have to do all this spending, they're going to be trying to recover. Football is a year-round sport when you get into college. We're there in the summers working out when everybody else is at home. We're there in the fall playing sports. That's when we play. We're there in the spring. That's when spring ball is, and we're getting prepared for the summer. And then that's just rolling. So the only time that I really got a break was the last year, my senior year. Other than that, I was on the clock, putting in 80 hours a week.
I would say this: money brings out some people.
It does.
It brings other people out of the woodwork, like
correct,
into people's lives. So my only concern is to make sure that if we're giving money to these kids, because Francisco, I'm saying I'm not against the NIL at all. I think it is a chance for these kids to get paid to play. I do think it's important that they get paid for the millions of dollars that they're bringing in. I think of being an Ohio State guy, the Marvin Harrison Juniors. I think of, the Shadur Sanders and all of those guys who are bringing in tickets. They're bringing in revenue. That Colorado's relevant because of these guys. And at the end of the day, want to make sure that we as a society, as an educational system, are helping these kids do right by their finances so that when they 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now, they get to the NFL and God forbid something happens to them, that they have that money stored up. And if they need to go back and get a second degree, they can, or they can start their own business, giving them business sense and giving them understanding of that. That's all my concern is with the student athletes.
But here's the difference, though, with Shakur Sanders and Marvin Harrison. They daddies are multimillionaires, so they can make mistakes, and their parents are going to cover for them. These kids who are coming in as freshmen, as sophomore, they're not coming in with money. That money is going to help them long term. Listen, like Jamil said, it is a learning curve. They need to learn how to be an adult. We're not going to hold their hands forever. He's a 18, 19-year-old that's got I know kids who are 19, 20 right now who are business owners who are making $1 million a year. People are not saying the same thing to them. We shouldn't trust them with $1 million. No, it's all about how they feel about their finances. It's all about who they have in their corner, in their team to help them. The schools come up with programs. The NFL has a program to teach these kids not how to squander their money. The NBA, especially, because NBA players go broke 5 years after the league because they don't save their money. There's countless stories. But these institutions have things in place right now to train these kids how to do that. Money doesn't change you. Money just makes you who you are. So if you were ignorant before money, you're going to be ignorant with money. It's not going to make a difference.
Well played. Good point. Ignorance is ignorance. It's just going to be rich ignorance. So we're going to have to put that on a t-shirt. If you were ignorant before money, you ignorant with money. So so good point there. All right. So we could spend the whole entire show talking about NIL going back and forth. I think we do need to kind of segue into the second half of this. So we're going to give the second half whistle here. All right. So we are in our second half of the show. So what we're going to do, we're going to take this next segment, and Jamil, I want you to give us your take. We've been talking the last couple of shows on QBs, the draft. The draft's in a couple of weeks. Got a lot of questions swirling around about the top 3 picks. We've got Chicago at 1. We've got Washington Commanders at 2, and then your beloved Patriots at 3. Who's staying where? Let's talk about your picks. Who do you think the top 3 in order of the draft? Who's going to be going as the QBs in your mind?
Caleb's definitely going. He's going. I mean, you don't give up a Justin Fields and I still don't agree with the move because Justin Fields really hadn't had the opportunity to
Welcome to
flourish
the
as a
show.
quarterback. So at the end of the day, I don't know why they did it, but it is what it is. So Caleb Williams, you invested that pick into him. So Caleb Williams is going. Drake May, honestly, I'm on the fence about Drake May. He's giving me Trubisky vibes, to be honest. That's just my
Hey,
perspective.
he took Chicago to the playoffs 3 times, man. So everybody knocks the kid, but he took them to the playoffs, man.
He did. And that's the thing is they didn't give him an opportunity. I think
and now he's a perpetual backup. But Chicago themselves have been a perpetual decent drafter, terrible front office, bad coaching. These players are products of just bad coaching.
Correct.
And we're on the fence. If you go listen to some of the other shows, we're on the same page with you, Jamil, in regards to the Chicago Bears. They should have kept Justin Fields, drafted Marvin Harrison, be done with it, have an incredible offensive talent going on there, and have the right pick. So we're on the same page. So number 2, you got Drake May. Who do you have going to the Commanders?
I don't know if it's going to be Drake May. See, I still think that the Commanders could go. They could maybe even go Jay Daniels on that pick.
Really?
Because he could, because he's a mobile quarterback. I don't think that they shored up the line because you got to remember they let their best offensive lineman go. What was it, last year or the year before last? The Commanders did, because the quarterback that they have in there is a because he came out of Wake, Wofford. I think it's Wofford. He's a mobile quarterback, and Drake May's mobile, but I think Jay Daniels is even more mobile. And I still don't know, and this is my opinion again. I know Caleb's going number 1, but I don't know how Heisman Trophy winners drop. You think about Lamar Jackson. He dropped to what, the 27th pick? Or no, the 33rd pick. The 33rd pick. We gave it to the Ravens because we were 32. So he was the 32nd pick of his draft, and he got him from the Patriots. But he's a Heisman Trophy winner. And so I don't know how you drop Jay Daniels down to the 3rd pick if he's a Heisman Trophy winner. Obviously, he has some skill set that the college game has recognized that put him up there, and he's very versatile. Throwing wise, you can go either way. Who had the better receivers? I don't know, because he had Neighbors, and then Drake May had your man out of Oklahoma that transferred in.
I don't know the wide receiver there.
The wide receiver. I can't think of his name right now. It's on the tip of my tongue. But before that, he had another all-star wide receiver. So both of these guys have had all-star wide receivers. So this is my thing. We're talking about quarterbacks, and you and I were talking about this earlier, Caleb. When you're thinking about quarterbacks, you want to see who can transition to the NFL the easiest, right? And so when you look at your Dolphins, who I like what they built around Tua, they gave him weapons. And at the end of the day, all of these quarterbacks in the draft in years past have always had weapons around them, coming out of Alabama, coming out of LSU, coming out of all these schools. They've had weapons. And so that's one of the things that has plagued us is we don't have weapons. We always try to buy on the discount. And so as a result of trying to buy on the discount, trading down and pick up more picks, and then we try to figure out if it works out, you start to feel the pain of that if you don't have a quarterback that can overcome that, or you have wide receivers that can overcome a quarterback that's still learning. So you got to one way or another. So,
well, I mean, the Commanders right now have Jake Fromm,
correct,
from Georgia.
Correct.
Didn't he win a national championship, or at least go?
I don't know if Fromm won. Did Fromm win?
Fromm's been there only a couple years, so I mean, they've been in the run of Georgia being a huge powerhouse. So you've got Fromm.
But this is
I just read an article.
Well, it's an impatient front office again, because you got to think, how many quarterbacks have they went through? It's almost the same story as the Browns. How many quarterbacks did they go through? And then jump over to the Bears. How many quarterbacks did they go through? And all the teams that you see succeeding right now in the NFL have had longevity as far as the staff, as far as the players. You think about the Kansas City Chiefs. You think about the Giants when they were on the run. You think about us while we were on the run. You think back to your Dolphins. All of these teams that have had runs have had some longevity to the coaching staff. That's
Mhm.
why the Texans are doing well. They took our GM. Casserole. He down there. We want him back.
So, okay, so you've got Caleb Williams going number 1. You've got Jay Daniels going number 2.
I think Jay Daniels may hop
Okay,
Drake.
so now we get to your team. So this isn't the Homer section, but this is just you saying, okay, who's going number 3?
My recommendation, we take a wide receiver, but I know we would probably go quarterback. I would take your boy out of Ohio State.
Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I'd take Marvin Harrison because
My
at the
question
end
is
of the day,
who's throwing to him? There is, because you got Jacoby Brissett, don't you?
we have Brissett right now.
I mean, anybody I could throw to Marvin Harrison. So,
correct. And that's what I'm saying. We gotta start somewhere. Like at the end of the day, we go take an offensive line, we take a wide receiver. You're starting to build the pieces. Defense, we don't need anything. Defense, we got one of our star corners coming back. They got injured. You got our defensive end coming back. All that side, we always making defensive player. We got a defensive-minded coaching staff.
all right.
Offense
So you've got
where we struggle.
So you've got Marvin Harrison going number 3.
I'll take him. I'll
Well,
take him.
give us your
But
pick right now.
They probably go take.
We writing it down on the big board.
I know they probably go take Drake or Jay Daniels, whichever one the Commanders don't take. But they should take Marvin Harrison.
Okay, because I've got J.J. McCarthy going to the Patriots.
No. You do realize that Belichick is not our coach anymore, right?
Yeah. And I do realize that Belichick is not in the league coaching anywhere.
Exactly.
Praise him.
Because but at the end of the day, technically he still is because everybody's been trained the same way. So Mayo is just a different version. He has the players back.
I don't think Mayo gonna
last
too long.
I don't think he's as strict as Bill.
Mm-mm.
Bill was just on a different level.
I don't think
Bill came from the chain of what's your man's that
Bill Parcells.
Parcells.
Yeah.
I don't think Mayo's gonna last too long in New England, man. He's not gonna get the same kind of leash that Bill had. I don't see it, bro. I just don't.
Mm-mm.
Okay, I'm going to call the elephant in the room. Bill Belichick is Bill Belichick because of Tom Brady. End of story. Period.
No.
110%. You can disagree with me all.
I will, because the first 3 championships had nothing to do with Tom Brady. All he did was he grew into what he became.
Did he not win the 3? Did he win the 3?
He was the quarterback.
He
was the quarterback.
He didn't win it.
But the defense won those games.
They won that game on a kick.
The kicker won the game, and then the defense won the other 2. He didn't win those games.
So you're saying that Bill Belichick...
That's where the Tuck rule came in?
No.
Hey, in all reality, Bledsoe's the one who got him to the Super Bowl, and Bill Belichick pulled him to start Brady in that game.
First Super Bowl.
Okay.
First one. Okay. And then he went night-night, and he went night-night.
Panthers was a kick.
Okay. Tom Brady came in, went to the Super Bowl, confetti fell, and then we usher in 20 years of the Belichick-Brady era. There's no question to me. It wasn't Adam Vinatieri that made Bill Belichick. It was Tom Brady. Tom Brady won all of those championships. All of those championships. When Brady left,
from 07 forward,
we saw who Belichick was. Belichick couldn't make a team with a Lego set.
That's not true. He went 11-5. He went 11-5 with Matt Castle, and he barely missed the playoffs because there was a bunch of other teams that had the same record. So no, he was able to win without Brady. So I don't want to hear that. He went to the playoffs, and I hate the Patriots. And I hate the Patriots with a passion. But Bill Belichick is the man. He took Mac Jones to the playoffs too. So I don't want to hear that he can't can't have good. Doesn't want to make good teams, man.
Mac Jones.
Mac
Jones is he's a bad bod quarterback.
This is underrated about the Patriots. All the seasons we won, we had a top 5 defense every one of those years.
That's true.
Every one of them.
Did you just say underrated in the Patriots?
Yeah. Defense, because you're trying to throw it solely on the offense. They won our receivers that was top tier other than the Randy Moss years. Don't worry, I'll wait.
Wes Welker.
Oh, from you guys? How did he do while he was in Miami?
Gronkowski.
He
How
said
did he do when
receivers.
he
He didn't
left?
say tight ends.
I didn't say tight
Tight
end.
end is a glorified receiver. Let's not go there. Go talk to Kittle and go talk to Kelsey and ask them if they're not a
Kelsey is a
receiver.
wide receiver.
Thank you.
He's a wide receiver.
Yeah.
But Kittle blows people off the ball.
Yeah. So, all right. So you've got Caleb Williams going number 1. You've got you're gonna have to make
Jay
a stand.
Daniels. Jay Daniels.
You got
I
Jay Daniels.
I think Jay Daniels
Okay.
will go too.
If they're picking number 3, are they picking quarterback? You're saying they're not. You're saying they're
I'm on
going.
the fence. I'm on the fence with whether they'll pick a quarterback, because at the end of the day, there's so many gaping holes on that offense. And then you just went through the Matt Jones situation where he struggled because we didn't have a wide receiver that could separate. You put a quarterback like a Matt Jones in a system where you had to throw into small windows. That was the Patriots' philosophy, is we made our quarterback, Brady, which he could do it, throw into very small windows. And so you brought in quarterbacks from college who had receivers that could separate. He had Smith down in the Eagles, being Mac Jones, that could separate from anybody. He had
did he have Waddle too?
Yeah, he had Waddle. He had Waddle as well. So all of these wide receivers could separate instantly, and he could throw to an open receiver. When you start to be able to throw in those windows is when you start to become like your guy in Green Bay, Jordan Love can throw into small windows, and it's going to be few and far people that can throw into windows. But that's the type of quarterback that we need, somebody that can throw in small windows. And I don't know if we have a quarterback that can do that with the wide receiver core that we have. And so that's why I'm hesitant to say that we'll take a quarterback, because you unfortunately need a wide receiver that can separate in order to make this team go in the right direction. Defensive wise, they go give them the ball, but you need somebody.
So
it's a hot take.
Let me ask you a question, Jamil. I know you coach high school football now. So, and we transition, and these high school football, these players, sometimes they don't even play quarterback and transition into quarterback when they get into college. What are the intangibles you think that these NFL teams are looking for from the high school level to the college level to the NFL level? Because you played, you're doing both. You did college, you played collegiate D1, Wake Forest, you were Demon Deacon, and then you're a high school football coach. So what are the intangibles that you're looking for to get to that next level once they're done with high school, college, and on to that next level?
Knowledge of the game. I think knowledge of the game is the biggest piece, because you're going to have a lot of people. Everybody's fast in the NFL. Everybody's strong in the NFL. Those are the things that you have. Everybody's tall in the NFL. Everybody can jump out the building in the NFL. All these things are a given, right? That's just stuff that is just the basic requirements. But then you got knowledge of the game. So you think about when Ray used to talk about the game, he used to talk about film study. And then he used to talk about when Tom used to come up to him and be like, I saw you there. I saw you there. It's the knowledge of the game. The knowledge of the game is what separates the megastars from the common Joe. And then what we're seeing right now is the ability for athleticism to give time for them to learn. So Pat Mahomes right now, he has crazy athleticism. He could throw from any angle. That's unheard of. Prior to him getting in the league, everybody went over the top with their throws. He can throw sidearm, he can throw 45, he can throw over the top, he can throw all different angles. So he's somewhat of a different play on the sport, but the sport is always catching up. It's always catching up. And so your knowledge has to develop. So Pat Mahomes' biggest thing is knowledge of the game. He needs to study the game, because he's going to get slower. He's going to not see things as fast as he used to. He's not going to be able to run away from these blocks. And so that's why you always see these quarterbacks pre-snap reading. And that was the biggest thing that he said that he was working on when he played Tom Brady, is pre-snap reading, because the Patriots, that's the one thing that made them good, is they would show you one thing and then it'd be completely opposite when you snap that ball. And that's the thing. The knowledge of the game is what separates the great players. You have to know the game.
Yeah, I love that. I love that thought, because, I mean, both you and I coached at the same time. We coached high school
Mm-hmm.
football. I was a wide receivers coach. You
Yep.
were a defensive line coach / work with the O-line, because a lot of times in high school you work both ways.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I remember us telling all of the kids, this is from freshmen to seniors, what separates you is not your talent, it's your knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
You can be the biggest and fastest, but if you don't understand how to adapt, then you will be a one-trick pony.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at some of these greats, like you said, I look at Peyton Manning, probably one of the most unathletic quarterbacks I've ever seen in my entire life, but a cerebral assassin.
Mm-hmm.
Spent hours watching film, breaking it down. Ask Peyton Manning to be able to write on a whiteboard, and it's not just Y2 banana, right? It's not that you go down deep and I'll throw it to you. It is complex reads. It is complex plays. And by far the hardest position to play is quarterback, because you have to know every position, what everybody should be doing at the same time. But you could be the biggest, fastest, strongest guy. You're going to stand out at the combine. But what's going to separate you from those that fizzle out are going to be the ones that adapt to the knowledge of the game. And if you're a student athlete listening to this, I cannot implore you enough. Be a student of the game. Figure out now how you can learn, break down film, even if you are sitting on the sidelines. I can tell you right now, my son did not get to play his senior year. He was on the team, but he could break down a play. He did not take time off to not learn the play, because when your number is called, you need to be able to go in. And I think of Tom Brady in that moment. Drew Bledsoe was the guy, and he was going to be the guy for a while until he went night-night. And Tom Brady's number was called, and he had to go play. And I remember in the documentary for Tom Brady, we said this before in one of our other shows, Tom Brady says, the moment I get on that field, you are never taking me off.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mentality. So I think that's a great thing to give to these young athletes. I know you instill it into the athletes that you coach. I think it's important. Be a student of the game. Don't just rely on all of your athletic ability. So fantastic. Any last thoughts on that, Francisco? We're getting ready to transition to our last segment of the night, but any last thoughts on that?
No, I just think Jamil does a great job of being able to break things down because of his experience. I mean, the guy played high school football, college football. He's coaching high school football. He's preparing these young men for the next level, and he's being realistic with them as well too. He's instilling these things that they need to learn, because there's no guarantee they're going to make that next level. So he's not just educating them on football, he's also educating them on life, and he's giving them a head start on a lot of things that most people wouldn't do. He's giving them a reality check at the same time to let them know there's more than football, and he's proof of that. He's sitting proof of that right now. So,
yep, 100% agree with you. I've seen it firsthand. So, congratulations on that, Jamil, and appreciate all that you're instilling into these young kids over at Corvian and past to Northside High School. Go Knights! It was a fun time, and I really appreciate all that you're instilling in there. So, all right, we are hitting our last segment of the night, the Be a Homer segment. So, how this works, Jamil, is we're going to get a few minutes to be a homer. And what that means is a roaming homer is someone who roots for a team in the city that they don't live in. And we're all living proof on this. Most of the United States population is a roaming homer. So welcome to the roaming homer family. Okay.
Yeah, buddy.
So we're going to let you go first, being the guest on the show. We're going to give you about 2 to 3 minutes. You get to talk about your team, the ups, the downs, what's your aspirations, what's your hopes for the New England Patriots. So the floor is yours for the next couple of minutes. Be a homer.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. My biggest thing with the Patriots is learning who we are. I think that we try to be so many different things. We tried to be the team of the past. We tried to be the team of the future, but we haven't built the team around the players that we have. I think that we invest in a dream. We have all these different players that go different ways and Belichick's mindset was, hey, you should know what everybody does on the field. He did that to Brady. He did that to everybody on the field. Now we have Mayo. He may have a similar approach, but his approach is more a player's coach, because you got players coaches, you got just coaches. And he's more of a player's coach. So I don't know if he can make the changes that we need. However, our biggest gaping hole in New England is the offensive side of the ball. We're not high powered enough. We haven't invested in the right areas. We haven't invested in the offensive line. We haven't invested in really nothing on the offensive side. Everything's on defense, because that's our coaching staff. We were defensive minded. Then we lost our GM down to the Texans, and you see the moves that he's made. They're high flying offense. Those are the same moves that we needed to make in New England. We had opportunities to make these moves. Had an opportunity at Lamar. Had an opportunity at a lot of players that you see in the league right now. Debo. And we got that tall receiver. I can't think his name, when Cam came, and he never turned into anything. So at the end of the day, we need a reality check. This is our reality check. We need to invest in the right areas. We need to invest in the offensive line. We need to invest in the wide receiver. We have running backs. I wouldn't say not necessarily as much of a need, but quarterback is something that needs to be addressed, whether it be your guy, Michigan, we get down the line, or it's Daniels, or if we go get Harrison or whoever it may be. All the investments at the Patriots need to be on the offensive side. Defense, special teams, all that stuff is taken care of, or we got pieces that we can plug in there.
Nice.
Offense needs to be the mindset, and if we focus in and really do the opposite of what we're accustomed, buying things on the budget and really invest in this thing, then I think we have the ability to turn this train around. Otherwise, we'll keep going in the wrong direction, and Mayo won't be there but 2 years, maybe 3, if that continues.
Yeah. Well, you know my thoughts on that. We'll get to that in just a second for me. But, all right, Francisco, talk to me about G-Men.
Well, I'm switching it up today. It's not about the G-Man. It's about my other team, because you know I grew up in Cleveland.
You're gonna be a Brownie
for
today.
20 years. Yeah, I'm gonna be a Brownie today.
Right.
So I want to give a shout out to the Browns for restructuring Nick Chubb's contract and doing right by him to have him back with the club next year, so he can make the roster like he should be. The guy's given his heart and soul to the team, and he has just been an absolute monster on the field. Well deserved for him to be back. The second issue that I'm going to talk about with the Browns is they are trying to build a new stadium in Brook Park, Ohio. If people are not familiar with Cleveland, Brown Stadium is in downtown on the lakefront. The new stadium that they're looking to build, they bought a bunch of property out in Brook Park. I want to make this explicitly clear. I'm not the only one that feels this way. The Haslams do not, under any circumstances, try to get our taxes of the people in Ohio to pay for your stadium. You are a multi-billionaire. There is no reason that the taxpayers have to pick up your tab to build the new stadium. And this is not just for the Browns. This is for Kansas City as well. You have all these owners who are cheap and want everybody else to pick up the tab for them, even though they're making billions off the people that go in charging $25 for a hot dog and $15 for a beer, but yet you want the taxpayers to pay to build your stadium. Stop it. Stop it. It is nonsense. Kansas City, the Kansas City taxpayers already knocked you down and told you no, it's not happening. So what is the first thing they do? They threaten to leave. The Haslams threaten to leave Ohio. Guess what? They'll put another team in that city like they did the first time, because Cleveland is a true blue football town. They will have another team in there if you want to pick up and leave. It's not like they're going to replace them. You won't be able to take the colors with you if you decide to leave, because that's the same thing that happened to Baltimore. You can leave, but you're not going to be able to take the moniker of Browns with you, because that belongs to Cleveland.
All right. Some deep words for the Browns fans. All right, 305. Here we go. All right, I got some good news for you, 305. I got some good news. Reports are showing that Jalen Phillips is expected to come back week one. This is Jalen Phillips. I'm so excited about this, because if we could get Bradley Chubb back week 1, week 2, week 3, and Jalen Phillips is back healthy, we're going to be scary. As long as they can stay healthy, we're going to be scary on the defense. You already know my thoughts on Jordan Poyer and all of the additions that we've had. So Come on, Phillips, make it happen. Don't come back too soon because we don't want you hurt by week 3 or 4. We need you all year long. Get healthy. Make sure you coming back. But I love the news that Jalen Phillips is on the mend quicker than normal. The second thing that I am loving coming out of the 305 is my man Tua is not holding out. He's going to make it to OTAs. Now the question is are we going to pay the man? Are we going to pay the man? Or are they going to screw him over and go get Penix? I don't know. Dolphins fans, talk to me. I love Tua. But this is the make or break year. This is it. This is it. He had one good, solid, full season. And we need another one. We need a playoff run. If we're not going to win the AFC this year, the window is very narrow. Very narrow. The Bills are in disarray. The Jets, screw the Jets. Okay? And yeah, and the horse you ran in on with Aaron Rodgers, see ya. I hate the Jets. Anyway, about as much as I hate the Patriots. And y'all ain't going to win nothing coming this year in the AFC. Y'all can take it to the bank. The AFC is the Dolphins to win. It's the Dolphins.
Find a way to mess it up.
We will.
Absolutely.
We will. Hey, but just like every good Dolphin fan, I'm optimistic until September 1. And then we just all mad. But that's the way Dolphins fans work. Come on. 305, do me right. Ross, McDaniels, all of you guys. Chip Kelly. Listen, we got Chip Kelly. Come on. We got to do something this year. This is the window is
McDaniels with that
Mike McDaniel. So
okay.
Mike McDaniel, Chip Kelly.
Did you say
we fired
Chip
our
Kelly?
Defensive. I
Chip
think
Kelly's
Chip
in
Kelly.
Ohio State.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong in that. We got somebody. Maybe I'm thinking wrong. So, see, you got me all flustered, man. You got me all flustered. Leave me alone.
He's still on one of your teams. He's just not in the 305.
He's still one on my team. See, I'm wearing red today. I mean, come on, man. I got a Michigan fan sitting in between us. The two teams that I hate the most out of all teams, you got to be rooting for them. Anyway, this is the Homer section. Let me be a Homer. Let me be a Homer real quick. All right. Anyway, 305, do me well. Do me well. Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, come on back. Tua, don't hold yourself out. You'll get your contract if you do well. I'm looking forward to this season. Going to see what happens during the draft. All right. Well, that is our show. So, Francisco, do you have any last words before we wrap this up with a bow?
I do. Jamil, I wanted to ask you a question. I know we didn't get to do it, so I want to ask on the final question. I know with your college career, what is the greatest accomplishment besides getting your degree on the football field in your years of playing playing college ball with Wake Forest? What was your greatest accomplishment to you? I'm not talking about graduation. Graduation is a whole different animal. I'm talking about on the football field.
Going to the Orange Bowl, met Arnold Palmer, Dwayne Wade, and Muhammad Ali.
Nice.
Wow.
All were on the field at the same time.
That's I don't know how you follow that up. That's some icons right there. That's iconic right there.
Yes, all three were. So Arnold Palmer was on our side, Muhammad Ali was on Louisville side, and then Dwayne Wade flipped the coin.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Were you a captain on the field for the coin toss? Yeah, that's awesome. That's pretty amazing.
Yep.
That's pretty amazing. All right. Well, that is our show. Thanks, guys, for joining us on the Roaming Homer podcast. We're so excited that you guys are a part of our family. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, share to get the latest updates. Comment below if you want us to talk a little bit about your team. And if you have anything that you want us to talk about on the show, drop us a comment on YouTube. You can also listen on your favorite podcast area. We're on Apple and Spotify. So go out there, subscribe, like, give us a listen, share it all to all your friends and family. So for Caleb and Francisco and our special guest, Jamil, thanks for joining us for this show. This has been the Roaming Homer podcast. And until next time, we'll see you later.